So with the sketches you've just prepared in hand, the idea here is to flesh out and start digitalizing the most promising of the concepts you had. And as we go along, I'll share with you a few tips that can help you to really speed up the next step in this process. And now we head into Adobe Illustrator, where there are some great time-saving techniques I'm going to share with you for this phase. Depending on the type of monogram that you're creating. So we're going to look at two broad types. Not everything falls perfectly into these categories, but we have what I like to think of as more modern or minimalist monograms and the more traditional type. And often the traditional style lends itself to letters that have serifs or perhaps scripts. And the modern, it tends to be much more geometrically sound. Sometimes you'll use a single line weight, and we had looked at a few of those examples in earlier lessons. So let's start off with the traditional. And if we come across here, you can see some exploration that I've started on earlier. But basically, you're wanting to take these sketches and the most promising concepts you'd come up with and flesh them out digitally. So time-saving technique number one, don't try to create a completely new font at this exploratory stage. Use an existing type, something that fits as closely as possible to your concepts. That's going to save you so much time. Just use a font, grab them and start overlapping and placing them as you'd conceptualized in your sketches. See what might work and see what might not. Now the font will sometimes have a bearing on the way these fit together, so you can explore different fonts to make sure something really doesn't work. It's not just a poor font choice. So that's the first tip. Pick a font that matches as close as it can for now. You might tweak it or adjust it later, or you might even create your own font entirely, but that's going to get you off to a good head start. You can see one of the ideas I had here was reducing part of the G in this SG monogram. So rather than kind of repeating this element to the left, I've simply used the shape builder tool, and this is another technique I'm going to show you. So how we get from this to something like this. Grabbed more than I wanted there. And actually I can begin with this just to show you the exact process. So once you've lined up the letters in the way that you want, you've got to select them both and use the shortcut Command-Shift-O to outline the type. If the type isn't outlined, the shape builder tool won't be able to affect it. And once you have your outline type, use a geometric shape, so a circle. A perfect circle is perfect, or it could be a square, a triangle, and try to make it fit the natural composition of the character. And you want to select your geometric shape along with the character, and you're going to select the portion that you reduce. So you use the shape builder tool. The shortcut is Shift M. And if you hold the Alt key, any portion of the selected elements that you hover over, you're going to have the ability to delete them, to remove them. So I could even hover inside here and remove the inside of that G to create this kind of effect. Well, that's not what we're going for on this occasion. So I'll undo, select the shape builder tool, and we want to reduce any portion of the G that falls outside that circle. Remove the circle, and there we have it. And I think this looks quite nice if we move them a little closer together. And the advantage of that, rather than simply doing something like this with a flat edge and removing the ends of the G, is that that's than a really stark endpoint. I quite like the fact if we leave it like this, it curves and kind of follows the direction the G was heading. So a more elegant way to cut it out there. And that's quite an effective way to, you could use this with any characters. Obviously you'll be working with different letters in your example. So that can be quite a nice effect if you want to reduce one letter from the other and without actually overlapping them, create this illusion that there's some interaction there. And if we head to another artboard, this is another effect I like to create. So you can see an overview of it here, starting with just these characters, dragging them to a position I thought they might overlap nicely. And we achieve this effect, the intertwining, quite easily. And I'm going to show you how to create this effect step by step. So again, it involves outlining the type. And in this example, we're creating the illusion the G is on top of the S. So we simply create a white stroke over the G. And once you've created that white stroke, you go to Object, Expand Appearance, and can you see that's now changed that from being a stroke to an actual element that we can interact with. Again, we use the Shape Builder tool, which is Shift M, and holding Alt to reduce, we want to reduce these portions that were stroked. And the important part is we want to reduce them where they intersect with the letter S or whatever your underlying letter is. And if I deselect and zoom out, you can see that's created a nice effect. And the advantage of not just stroking it white, but doing it with the Shape Builder is that if I were to place black underneath, and I wanted to reverse these out, you can see that overlap now works whatever color we place this in and whatever background we put it on. Now I've not done the overlap for the bottom half deliberately, and that's because for some purposes you'll want to have them intertwine so that it looks like the top of the G is on top of the S, but maybe lower down the S comes out on top. And that creates a really attractive effect. So to do that, back to the Shape Builder tool, instead of following this and reducing this portion of the stroke on the G, we would instead remove the stroke on the S, which is this portion, and remove it where it overlaps the G. So you have to take some care as you do this. Just make sure you're eliminating the correct portions. And there you have it. So the G starts on top, threads underneath, and comes back out. A little bit of an optical illusion, but that can be a really effective technique. I haven't used it in this example here, but still that's quite a striking traditional monogram. And now finally, as I alluded to in that example we just looked at, you do often have to view the way this looks on different backgrounds. And here you can see one of the concepts that I had sent to my client, and I wanted to show it on a charcoal background with kind of a gold tint to the text. So testing it on different backgrounds to make sure it works. You'd be amazed how often you reverse something and find out it doesn't work, or you spot something that you're going to need to adjust or change. It looks as if a gap between the letters where they overlap is smaller, even though it's geometrically not. It looks smaller on this darker background. And if I put it on black, it looks even smaller still. That's the way our eyes work. it always tends to reduce the spacing when something's shown on a dark background. So often your logos will need to work on either light or dark backgrounds. So that's something to test. As you're working out the concepts, try it on both a light and a dark background. And although in this class we're just focusing on the monogram itself, without perhaps logo type and other elements of the identity, this gives you an idea of a way I might tie that all together. Using fonts that complement each other and spacing it in a way that the overall layout looks balanced. So that's our traditional monogram concept looking pretty good. And of course, don't forget, in your project, you'll likely be using different letters. So please feel free to ask me in the comments if you've come across two letters and you're not quite sure how to make them interact with each other, and perhaps we can help you. So share that please in the class comments. Otherwise, let's now take a look at how we might flesh out our concepts for the modern style monogram.